So between Ujamaa, our bookstore, and the bodega and the cafe, we have over 140 different makers, culinary artists, designers who have their goods or their products on the shelves in our stores.
140. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the IAAQLI 6 Pillars in Action podcast, where we deep dive into the transformative impact of the work being done in Indianapolis Black communities. Get ready to be inspired by the incredible projects and organizations making a real difference in the lives of Indianapolis residents. And that conversation starts right now.
Welcome to another episode of 6 Pillars in Action podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you as your host, Samantha Douglas. And here at this podcast, we take an in-depth look at the incredible work of the IAAQLI, or the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative. Whew. Okay. Today, I'm so excited to be here with Lisc, a giant in community development, especially here in Indy. And I get the pleasure of talking to two of you. So I guess we will take time to hear from both of you about who you are and your role with the organization.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again for having us. We're so excited for this conversation. My name is Brandon Taylor, and I currently serve as the Interim Executive Director with Lisc Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. I've been with the organization here in Indianapolis for the past 3 years, but with Lisc as a whole for over a decade. So I've been able to work in our New York City offices and also in our Philadelphia offices, and now bring that experience and that vantage point to our work here locally in Indy. So glad to be here.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you said 3 years here.
3 years here.
10 years total.
Yes.
But then how long have you been in the interim role?
Oh, for 3 months.
For 3 months. So how
yes.
is it exciting?
It's exciting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening out in the world right now. So it also makes it another kind of a roller coaster of a journey.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. We have an awesome team at Lisc, and it's a blessing to be in this role.
Yeah.
And Samantha, thank you so much for having us. My name is Kelsey Coe, and I am Senior Program Officer for Health and Housing at the Lisc Indy office. So I've been with the team about 2.5 years now. Have the privilege of working alongside Brandon and the rest of the team to try and move the needle on quality of life for residents across Indianapolis.
And so to get started, I want to hear more about what does Lisc do? For those, I think of those who have never heard of Lisc, first of all, even what it stands for, or and also the way that they interact with community development, because I think sometimes even in community development, we don't always understand what that means either. Mm-hmm. So if we could unpack that, I don't either one of you.
Of course, yeah. So Lisc stands for the Local Initiative Support Corporation. Mm-hmm. And so the meaning of our work is really in the name, local initiatives. We strive to work in partnership with residents and partners to really forge communities of opportunity, as we call it, communities of opportunity across America. And these are great places to live, to work, to visit, to do business, and to raise families. Locally in our Indianapolis team, our North Star is really a thriving Indianapolis where all residents have access to quality housing, healthy food, economic opportunity, and a voice in shaping their communities. And locally, we do that through 3 core pillars of our work: economic and workforce development, which entails a bunch of small business work that we do and investing in local entrepreneurs and other micro enterprises, also working with workforce development sites across the city of Indianapolis to ensure that they have the technical assistance and also the funding that they need to really be able to thrive and to support their neighbors. Health and housing is our second pillar. So Kelsey leads that work and can talk about it probably a lot more than I can, but talking about vacant lot acquisition work across the city and finding a way to repurpose a lot of the vacant lots in our communities. Also thinking about ways that we can support emerging developers to be a part of the affordable housing solutions that are needed for Indianapolis. And then our third pillar is our lending and community investment work. And that's really the bread and butter of Lisc as a community development organization, but also as a certified CDFI. It's a term called Community Development Financial Institution. Mm-hmm. And really that is about bringing lending resources to communities to advance impactful projects. We got our start in affordable housing over 40 years ago in New York City, and have now expanded that presence across the country, not just in terms of the number of cities that we're located in, but also in the number of projects that we can support. So affordable housing, economic development, charter school financing, commercial and other retail spaces as well. So it's pretty broad in terms of what we can actually finance as well.
Yeah. I'm going to give you time to talk more about the health and housing. But I also want us to talk about, I've seen many times where you guys have been able to move fluidly too as like a situations change, which I thought was super interesting. There was one time where you guys were, it was like some kind of abatement. I want to say it was like lead abatement or like something like that. And there weren't enough contractors to do that work, and you guys were able to like shift into helping people get certified so that you could pay them to do this work. I was like, oh, that is impeccable. Like, because a lot of nonprofit organizations don't have that flexibility to be able to slide over and say, hey, you know what, let's figure out how we fill this need for ourselves, right?
Exactly.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
And that really, I mean, Lisc is organized, of course, from a national structure. So we do have a national team, a national office, and it's a tremendous opportunity to tap into those resources and experts across the variety of areas that I mentioned earlier: housing, economic development, creative placemaking, and so on. But then also, I think the blessing of the local offices is that we can be nimble and we can, respond to, what's happening here in Indianapolis per se, or in Cincinnati or Chicago, and really be responsive to those changes in that market, and then bring tools and resources from our national team to address those local challenges.
Yeah. I was blown away by that. But definitely, obviously, health and housing is huge. I don't know anybody. It's probably our top two, right? Especially here in Indy. So definitely tell us about like how Lisc is impacting that work and making positive change.
Sure. So, on the health front, a lot of the work that Lisc has been engaged in revolves around food access. So we recognize that in Indianapolis, we have a lot of food deserts, food apartheid, and, areas where access is really inequitable. And the food that is available is not nutritious. It may not be culturally relevant. And so there are a lot of really seemingly intractable issues, that have stemmed from decades of disinvestment and, lots of other underlying factors. So in that realm, what we have tried to do is to come alongside people who are doing the work on the ground and serve as a capacity builder. And one of the things that I love about Lisc is the comprehensive view of community development. So we recognize that if we're investing in the food system, for example, we need to look at all facets of that. So we're talking about, food production, aggregation, processing, distribution, value-added products, making sure that there are retail outlets, investing in food entrepreneurs, and so really looking holistically across the whole value chain, so that we can, make a dent, move the needle, because it is a really big issue. And then on the affordable housing front, as Brandon mentioned, that's really where Lisc began, decades ago. And so, especially here in our local office, we're really kind of coming full circle back to a really heavy focus on that work. So one of the things that investment from the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative has allowed us to do is to launch our Emerging Developers Growth Initiative, or EDGI for short. And EDGI is a program where we have been able to stand up a training program for emerging developers, looking at small-scale, incremental projects. So what is the next feasible thing that developers can do to help advance the affordable housing stock? I'm sure we'll dig into some more detail about that, but that has been a big effort for us in the affordable housing front of late.
And it ended up being a really good segue, because I was going to ask, so when you guys saw the opportunity that IAAQLI was presenting, what kind of alignment you all saw, and like what attracted you all to want to apply and thought this funding would really help what you're doing?
Sure. Well, and even in the name of the initiative itself, quality of life, Lisc has been advancing meaningful quality of life work for decades here in Indianapolis. We've supported, I think to date, 6 quality of life plans across the city, working in partnership with neighbors and with residents and local leaders and other community stakeholders, based organizations, to think about what is the plan for the future of this neighborhood, what are the priorities that the residents are lifting up, and then what resources do we have access to actually mobilize on some of these plans to take action.
Yeah.
And so even in the name of the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative, we automatically saw that there was a comprehensive look on addressing the challenges facing our African American communities across Indianapolis. And so right off the bat, I mean, I think that so many programs were coming to mind as we were kind of observing the different categories that were available.
Yeah.
And so we immediately thought that these funds would be instrumental to really help expand the existing efforts that Lisc was already pursuing in a lot of our neighborhoods, and also I think do some innovative projects as well in partnership with our communities. So expanding existing work, but also doing some new things too that could respond to some of the needs and some of the desires we'd heard from our community partners.
What are some of those innovative projects?
Well, one of the projects was entitled Healthy Bridges to Careers in Tech. And it really built off of Lisc work and our Bridges to Career Opportunities work. So across the country, Lisc supports community-based agencies or social service agencies that are providing workforce development support to residents and also providing access to adult basic education supports as well. And so we took that model. We have 6 Bridges to Career Opportunity sites in Indianapolis that we support. And we took that model and built onto that with Healthy Bridges to Careers in Tech. And actually the IAAQLI funding was actually the seed funding to help us start this initiative, which is really neat. So we were able to wrap in behavioral health supports for residents who are, or workers who are going through these different training programs to provide them with mental health supports or other counseling, assistance as well, to really address the increasing need for more advocacy and more just conversation about this topic of mental health in our communities. So that was critical. That was one. And then also expanding into the careers in tech. Historically, most of our agencies here in Indianapolis have been focused on construction, healthcare careers, advanced manufacturing, and the tech space was one that we were thinking about breaking into, but really could never find what was the angle, what was the foot in the door to really make that happen. And through the IAAQLI funding, we were able to actually begin to fund our sites to establish partnerships with tech training providers. And one of those being, my favorite story is our drone flight training partnership with Triple T Academy, which is an incredible organization. You all should always go check out what Ron and the team are doing there. And so working with our sites to train folks specifically in the drone flight training to become drone flight operators, which equips them not only with a drone flight certification, but also gives them the opportunity to pivot into a manned airline, flight direction as well if they choose to.
I love that you brought that up because, when we think of tech, we think of like software type tech and not necessarily like that kind of tech.
The whole world out there.
Yes.
Well, there's a world of automation now as well. I mean, you have people sitting behind a computer and sending drones with, packages as well. So there's a lot of different possibilities that individuals going through this training can specifically pursue, which is exciting.
Being more creative, like one of my frustrations, and I will actively tell people this on the Far East Side, it's not popular, but I will tell them, don't bring me CDLs and warehouse jobs. I'm sick of it. Like, I'm sick of it because we need something that I don't want to just see our men and our women go out there and die in warehouses. I want them to live, build something for their families, spend time with their families, my God, right? And so a lot of these CDL jobs, things like that, brings those limitations where they can't spend time with their families and they can't do all those things. So I love that you guys are expanding beyond that, especially for adults, right? Because everything our kids need, our adults need. And making sure that they have those opportunities. And so I know we're getting close on time, but I definitely wanted to hear more about how IAAQLI has impacted you all's work and how you've seen it specifically like show up in your work and maybe some of like your favorite stories. Like he shared one of his, like would love to hear one of your favorite stories.
Sure. So I spoke a bit about EDGI, our Emerging Developers Growth Initiative, and it is hands down my favorite work that I have been engaged in my role at Lisc, because there's so much momentum around it. The barriers to entry into the real estate development field are really high.
Yes.
And so having a training program where we can provide curriculum, the know-how, the basics, the skills, the knowledge. We can provide connections to industry professionals and professional services and others in the ecosystem that, have been around and know what they're doing. And most importantly, we can provide access to capital, which is a huge missing piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
Being able to provide those things to people who see real needs in their neighborhoods and want to be part of the solution has just been so exciting. Hearing the why from the participants that have gone through our first cohort has just been such a breath of fresh air. It's a great reminder that there are people living in our communities who know what the community wants, know what the community needs, and have a real drive and passion to be part of the solution. And so through the funding we've received, we have been able to uplift those folks.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
So real quick, I want you guys to be able to share, like, how can people get connected to these programs and get involved? Like, if they want to be a developer or they want to start being part of the solution in their community, how can they get plugged in?
Sure. So that's a great question. We have a great website out there, lisc.org / Indianapolis. If you go onto our website, we have a wonderful communications officer at Lisc who has put together a wonderful website for us to talk about all of our exciting work. And so you can definitely find us on there, but then also on all social media. If you search for Lisc Indianapolis, you'll find us there. We do have some really exciting events coming up, so we definitely want you to check out and join our newsletter so you can hear all about the exciting opportunities to engage with Lisc in the near future.
Thank you all so much for being here today. I love hearing about these things. I love talking to our grantees because obviously not many of us get to hear and see all of the amazing work that's happening. There's so much. So thank you for coming to share.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
And thank you guys for listening through this segment. We will be back with Brandon Cosby from Flanner House. So join us back here in just a second.
Coming up, hear from another IAAQLI awardee and learn more about the impact and work being done in our community. And don't forget, subscribe to our podcast and visit the IAAQLI website and learn more about the work being done and ways to get involved.
Welcome back to Six Pillars in Action podcast. We are here with the leader of Flanner House, Brandon Cosby. Now, if you don't know what Flanner House is, you've been under a rock. Quite seriously, but Flanner House obviously has been a staple, especially in the Black community, for a very long time on the Northwest side. We're so grateful to have you here. I'm going to have you introduce yourself, but then also tell us a little bit about Flanner House for those who don't know.
Sure. My name is Dr. Brandon Cosby. I just go by Brandon. I use doctor to get me into special appointments and things. Flanner House is 127 years old. Established in 1898, we're one of the last remaining settlement houses in the United States.
120. I just want 120. So you guys opened when?
In 1898.
1898. That is incredible.
We are the oldest Black not-for-profit in the state.
Oh my God, that is incredible. That is. I know I said this off air, but you guys need a museum.
And we'll have one.
Yeah.
Actually, we're in the process of preparing to launch a capital campaign to build a new building. And in the new building, there is a museum wing.
Oh, my God. You guys deserve it. Okay. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
But you can go ahead. You guys, what is Flanner House?
Flanner House, from its inception, that's the beautiful thing is that our mission that was written in 1898 has not changed in 127 years. And we're focused on providing resources, supports, and training to provide to individuals and families to move people from positions of crisis to self-reliance, self-determination, and self-sufficiency. And when people ask me what I do, my response is everything. Because that's really what happens at Flanner House. We have early childhood education, so from infants all the way through kindergarten. We have a before and after care program from school-aged kids first grade through sixth grade. We have a workforce development program called the Center for Working Families that provides financial literacy, education, job training, skills development. We have a senior citizens program. We run the largest urban farm in the city. We have a grocery store and a cafe, Cleo's Bodega and Cafe, that are right on site. We have a 30-tree orchard, 2 15,000 square foot greenhouses, and we also operate and own the nation's only Black mental health center.
Oh, wow.
Plus a housing initiative. I mean, it's a multifaceted organization.
That is incredible. I know that like this isn't one of our questions, but I'm curious. So first of all, when did you start in this leadership role with Flanner House?
I started in January of 2016.
2016. So when you found out like the history of this organization and stuff, that had to be like incredible. Like, I get to like come in and lead this incredible organization.
Well, I mean, anxiety inducing on one level, right?
Yes.
When I got there, the agency was in a little bit of financial hardship. The former director, Wilbert Buckner, had passed away from terminal cancer 6 months before.
Yeah.
Half the staff attended the same church that he did. So they didn't just lose their director, they lost someone with whom they shared their lives. And so to be able to come in and create an environment, number one, where the staff could mourn and could heal, and then to really turn around and say, okay, well, where's the opportunity in the crisis? Of how do we begin to rebirth or to create a renaissance for this organization? And digging into the history. Cleo Blackburn, who the cafe and the bodega is named for, Cleo's daughter, Sarah, still lives here in Indianapolis.
Oh, wow.
Cleo Blackburn was the executive director for 40 years at Flanner House, and she was his personal assistant for the last 20.
Oh, wow.
So to get to have access to her and to have lunch with her and just start asking questions, and then I could just sit back and take notes, pouring through all of the documents at the Indiana Historical Society, it really helped to inform and help me understand, where the organization had historically been, and that really gave me a firm foundation to know where we needed to go.
Yeah, I was about to ask, so obviously 127 years is an incredibly long time, but you were saying the mission has stayed the same. But how have you guys changed in how you, evolved in how you fulfill that mission? We
have evolved, and so part of what it really came down to was, digging through the history of the agency and looking at all of the programs and services that we had historically offered, many of which we had gotten away from. Mm-hmm. And so what I tell people when they come to Flanner House now versus, say, 9.5 years ago when I started at Flanner House, there were 28 full-time employees.
Yeah.
Last week, I hired our 135th full-time employee.
Wow. So
in that 9.5-year period, we've had this miraculous growth. And so people are familiar with different parts of our programming, from our mental health center at Morningstar to Cleo's Bodega Cafe, Ujamaa Community Bookstore. All of the things that we are currently doing existed at some point in the history of the agency. And so what I remind people of is that I didn't come here really to do anything new, but have really leaned into that African principle of Sankofa, of turning around, reaching back and getting it and pulling it forward. And so a lot of those things we have just kind of reinvented in a modern or a current context that makes sense and is usable to our residents in the community.
So I want to hear, too, about, with you guys' positioning and history in that community. I know, obviously, throughout the years, it's probably spurred a lot of collaboration. So, how have you worked with other, maybe community members or other organizations in your community to really create that collaborative spirit and connection as you guys do this incredible work?
We do a lot of collaboration on the farm side, the different growing operations, black growers that we provide not only technical assistance to, that we've been able to work as we've developed our agriculture program, but then to also provide retail outlets for a number of black businesses. So between Ujamaa, our bookstore, and the bodega and the cafe, we have over 140 different makers, culinary artists, designers who have their goods or their products on the shelves in our stores.
140. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
And they're local?
Yes.
Are they all local?
They're all local.
That is incredible. Oh, my
and so
gosh.
when you walk into Ujamaa, for example, everything that you see on the shelves that's for sale that is not a book was made by Black hands from this community.
That is incredible.
All of the art that's hanging on the walls in the cafe at Cleo's, all of that it's all for sale, number one. But number two, all produced by local artists. Londo's Flame Aid, Nature's Tea Company, Chef Oya with the trap and her trap butters that we sell on the shelf in the grocery store.
Yeah.
But we also use her butters to make our grilled cheese sandwiches. So really looking at that opportunity to create economic intersectionality between these existing businesses where we give them an opportunity to have their products available to folks every day on the shelves or directly out of the case.
I love the intentionality of supporting Black-owned businesses and then also giving them space so that others can support them too.
Yes.
I think that's underrated, like in our community. Like we think about like supporting them and buying their products, but we don't think about but you can also support them in giving them space to continue to sell their products to others too.
And that was really important to me when I got there. So even when I got there and I looked at every single dollar that was going out of Flanner House to any local business, and I terminated most of those contracts and found local Black businesses that could provide those same services. And we generally found that we got better services for a more reasonable or affordable price point. And so we really work really hard to make sure that if a dollar is going out, it is going to support another local Black business.
I just heard better quality for a cheaper price. I'm just saying. I don't know if everybody else is doing that, but okay. So I want to start making the connection with IAAQLI. So when you heard about the opportunity, what kind of alignment did you see between what they were trying to do and what you all are doing?
Well, I mean, when you looked at the overall mission of the Quality of Life Initiative, I mean, that's really what the end game for Flanner House is to elevate the overall quality of life for Black and brown folks in our neighborhood and our community.
Yeah.
And I say that with a caveat because the truth is that regardless of what color someone is, if they walk through the door needing our supports, our services, our programming, then everybody is welcome. But historically, that's why the agency was created. And so sitting in a predominantly Black neighborhood, that still continues to be the majority of our client base. And so looking at what, as these funding opportunities really rolled out, and because Flanner House is so multifaceted, it really just became a matter of looking to see, as the funding opportunity came out, and linking it directly to which individual program really linked to us. What we were quietly hoping for was that there would just be a larger general pool, because our methodology and our approach to the work is different than a lot of people. We very specifically talk about this concept of holonomy, which talks about the interconnectedness of things.
Yeah.
Right? So if you take the back off of a watch, an analog watch, you see all of the gears in the back, and some are big, some are small, some are shiny, right? And people always want to say things like, well, what's the most important program Flanner House has? Well, what's the most important piece of that watch?
Right.
Pull any piece of it out, and what happens?
It doesn't
work. The whole thing stops working.
Right.
And that's what really makes our organization work, and that's really how neighborhoods and communities are able to flourish and thrive. And so we tried to make sure that as we were talking with our partners through the Quality of Life Initiative, that they understood that those dollars that were coming in, it was a multifaceted approach, because that's the way that we approach the work. That's the way that we approach our services. And so trying to write those different applications and meet the qualifications, but at the same time, letting it feed back into the collective growth and impact and our collective reach for neighborhood and community was really important to us.
That was going to be one of my next questions was, did the funding you got from IAAQLI, did it fund something specific, or did it kind of just continue like on the mission or things you were already doing? So like, what did that funding specifically help you do?
What it did, a lot of times with not-for-profit work, because of the way that funding is set up, a lot of the opportunities basically let you go a mile wide and an inch deep, right?
Yes, yes.
As opposed to what the Quality of Life Initiative enabled us to do was to go really significantly deeper, right? To really lean into this conversation about launching a Black mental health agency and having a director and then having more than 20 counselors and therapists on the roll to be able to provide access and services, and to be able to say to the community, whether you have private insurance, whether you have Medicaid, if you have no insurance at all, these dollars enable us to be able to provide that same quality of care and service to every single person who walks through the door. Being able to expand our food work and really putting it in the context of our farming initiatives and our food work double as a crime prevention initiative. That's something that a lot of times people get lost. They see the vegetables, they see the beautiful building that Cleo's is, and they focus on those things. But for me, it's every tomato that we sell, that's $1 that goes back into a program that keeps a young man or young woman alive and off the streets. And so folks, to have the opportunity to have those funds to really flesh out that program that lets us strengthen it in such a way that we have one of the lowest recidivism rates of youth crime prevention programs in the country.
Wow. And that's I think one of the things we don't realize is thoughtful and intentional community development helps in that way too, because it's super hard to get young people to believe that there's value in life if they don't feel like people treat them like they're valuable, 100%. Right? And so having thoughtful development in their community, having such an amazing organization like you all in their community already makes them feel like somebody here cares, is present.
Right, and we adjusted a lot of that. There's a body of research that is done by a brilliant man named Trabian Shorters, where he introduced this concept of asset framing. So we remove this negative, stereotypical kind of destructive conversations about us in our community, right? So we don't have programs to end violence. We don't have programs to end poverty, right? We do critical work with individuals, and we don't empower people. I'm not a wizard. I can't do that.
Right.
But what I can do is help you recognize and discover and realize the power that's always been within you, but the system has told you that you were powerless or made you feel or believe you were powerless. And so we provide that nurturing, that coaching, that space for you to grow your confidence and your capacity, and we'll believe in you until you're strong enough to believe in yourself, and then provide ongoing coaching and support to watch you live into your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, both for yourself, your family, but also ultimately for the larger community.
That is amazing. I love this work. I love hearing and talking to you all about how impactful this funding has been for your organizations that are already doing amazing work. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the IAAQLI is it was able to come in and not just start new things that are also figuring things out, but also investing in things that are 127 years old and make an incredible impact. If there's one thing you wanted to leave folks with about this experience with getting this funding, with building the things that you've been able to build with it, what would you want to leave people with?
The one thing I would want to leave people with is what I tell people all of the time is that when I talk about our work and I get excited and I get passionate about it, is come see us. Right? Come spend some time on the campus. Come shop at the store. Come sit in the cafe. Come to the bookstore. Come to the farm on a day where we're having a community day. Because a lot of what it is that we talk about, you really don't fully understand it until you're standing there on the campus and you're in it. And that's when you really begin to realize what the potential is and what the power and the capacity to do this transformative work that's really enabled us to kind of turn up the volume or the intensity of because of the African American Quality of Life Initiative.
So how can people get connected with Flanner House? What can they do?
They can follow us. Every one of our initiatives has its own independent social media platform.
Dope.
So the Child Development Center, our Center for Working Families, Ujamaa Community Bookstore, Cleo's Bodega and Cafe, Morning Star Mental Health Center, the Flanner House Stage Academy, which is an urban arts program that we were able to launch in 2024. All of them have their own individual social media pages and followings, or they can just go to flannerhouse.org and you can actually follow the link to any of those.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this and learned so much more than Flanner House than I even knew. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you follow us at IAAQLI on YouTube, on social media, and make sure you look out for our next episode. Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed today's 6 Pillars in Action podcast and learned more about how the IAAQLI funding is impacting our city. And remember, to stay up to date on what's happening with IAAQLI and the 6 Pillars in Action, subscribe to the podcast in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also check out the 6 Pillars in Action newsletter, blogs, and other videos on our website at IAAQLI.org. Until next time, let's continue to celebrate the power of transformation. See you next time.